Hi there, and welcome to episode 4 of the Nova Scotia Kitchens podcast, Alana's Lobster Cakes. I'm your host, Sherry Graham. On today's show, I visit with my friend Alana in her amazing, bright, vintage, cheery kitchen on Long Island, and she makes her very own recipe for lobster cakes. They're not cakes like birthday cakes, but like fish cakes. So if you live around here, fish cakes are pretty common. They're often made from leftover fish and mashed potato. But for some reason, the idea of lobster cakes had never crossed my mind. It hadn't even entered the realm of possibility. And that kind of captures the essence of Alana. She is so resourceful and clever, and I just love how she works in her kitchen. She's a great cook and has a terrific sense of style, as you will see from her pink vintage working Kelvinator fridge. It is amazing, and I love it. In true real-life fashion, there was a lot going on in Alana's kitchen when I visited, and you'll hear some of that in the background. She was looking after a sweet little one, and in between she was cooking, so you'll hear him occasionally in the background. And also amidst the chaos, we referred to lobster antenna as tentacles. Sorry about that. And we get really excited about Alana's fantastic turquoise enameled cast iron cookware set. It is pretty fantastic, and it was given to her as a gift. And you'll also hear her rummaging in her chest freezer for the very most clever way to make the best use of every bit of your lobster. So let's get right to the visit.
Every time I make these, I make them, like, depending on who I'm making them for, I make them a little different. After my husband passed away, obviously times are a little rougher financially, and people, like my father-in-law and whatever, would give me lobster, so it was like, lobster everywhere.
So it's lobster cakes, and you created the recipe?
Well, yeah, it was out of the, when I usually cook, I look at recipe books, but then never follow the recipe because that's how I am. And I saw a recipe for crab cakes, and then I omitted all the things that my kids didn't like out of them. And then,
as you do, yeah.
And then how I cook is whatever I have at the time. And these I do variate. Like I put different spices depending on who I'm cooking them for, or what I have, because I'm not going to the store a lot kind of person. Yes. And I always peel too many the skins off too thick. Sometimes we have potato skins for dinner.
Yeah. So essentially, though, it's like a fish cake.
It's like a fish cake without the salt. And with fish cakes, usually it's got like an egg or something like that holds it together.
Yeah.
But with these, I use mayonnaise.
Oh,
and only mayonnaise because I hate American Whip.
Yeah. I happen to agree with you.
And sometimes, sometimes I'll put a splash of lemon or something in with them as well. But for the way, it's mayonnaise. So just peel potatoes, boil them up.
So you're doing about.
Okay. So I'm
just trying to figure out.
I'm not very good with, because for a recipe, what I usually do is probably 2/3 potatoes, 1/3. Sorry, half potato, quarter lobster, and a quarter onion. Okay, that's about what I do.
Perfect.
And so then whenever you do it to however much you want, because not everybody's going to want lots of onions, but I prefer lots of onions in mine.
Lots of flavor. And your pot is really, really cute. I love that.
This was a find, a secondhand place find, but it's my favorite size. So it fits on the little burner.
But it's nice and tall and whole size.
Mm-hmm. And then cut these all up. And usually I prefer to have the lobsters cold too, to cut up. And sometimes I do put it through the chopper, but I won't today because it's not that many. If I'm making for a lot of people,
what's the chopper?
Oh, it's my food processor.
Okay, yeah.
But if I'm making for a lot of people where I'm just making a small amount today, I'll just cut it by hand.
Yeah.
But if not, I'll put it through the food processor just to save time.
So you'd mash the potatoes and then have lobster
Cut up. And then I add that afterwards. And I'll fry up the onions first too.
Yeah.
So that they're nice and soft and caramelized, but not brown. I don't really make them brown.
Right.
Now put a little bit of salt, of course, in the potatoes.
Yeah. Okay, so your potatoes on to boil. Now tell me about your lobster. When you boil them, how long do you boil them for?
Well, I just go, people always say until the tentacles will pull out, but I just go by sight.
I had never heard that about the tentacles.
Really?
I had never heard that.
Yeah, if you let them boil and then like just pull the tentacle, like if the tentacles pop right out, then that means they're done.
Oh.
But
now I had never heard that.
And yeah, so yeah, but I guess that's how I know that they're done.
Oh, there.
And I just boil them with very little water because the water comes out of them.
Yes.
Or just regular boil and shell them.
Yeah.
And
now, what's your favorite part of the lobster to eat?
the claws always are my favorite.
Me too.
I love the knuckles too.
Yeah.
I always use the knuckles for dip because I find they're sweeter, which is probably not true, but that's in my head and I imagine it.
Yes.
I use the knuckles for dips and the claws. The bodies I cut up coarse for chowders mostly.
Yeah.
I usually do my, I call it my lobster chowder in a jar. And
Tell me more.
Okay, I'll show you some afterwards because I got some in the freezer.
Oh, no way.
When I boil up my lobsters and stuff, I separate them and I separate them all in different bowls. Like the claw meat goes in one, and the knuckles and stuff goes in one, and the tails go in one. And then I save usually the knuckles for dip and put that in a jar to freeze. And then I have the claws and the the claws and the bodies I use for chowders. And I chop up the claws usually just in two because I like to have the whole, I like to see the claw when it's in a chowder because it makes it prettier.
Oh, it's very pretty.
And I just chop up the bodies, and I fry it with the onions. And then I pan fry the claws and the bodies with butter, of course, and the onions. And then I put that in the, probably 3/4 of a mason jar.
Okay.
And then a big mason jar.
Yeah.
And then I boil up all the bodies and shells and all that stuff, the legs, to make the stock.
Yes.
With salt. And then I pour that over the top of the buttery lobster mixture and let it cool, and I leave the head space and I freeze it so that when I want to make a chowder, because they come in fits and starts with lobsters, I'll get them. And when I want to make a chowder after working or whatever, I just take it out in the morning, and then all I have to do is boil potatoes, plop that in, add the milk, and then I add my spices.
That is brilliant.
That's Alanism too. That's a made up thing.
Alanism, I love it.
That is something, and that just out of necessity for working, but I have them here in my freezer.
No way! That's brilliant, 'cause it's just like chowder concentrate, essentially.
Yeah, it's just all done. This is mostly stock right here. Now I've got it for, this is for lobster rice. And
I've never done lobster rice either.
Well, we use the liquid for, maybe it's a lobster chowder. Lobster chowder starter, right?
Nice! That's so smart. I've never heard of that before. I love it.
And then but for the lobster with rice, for lobster fried rice, I drain off, I use the liquid, because it's 2 cups. I use a cup of the rice, but I'll put that in the pot instead of water for the rice to steam the rice in.
Yeah.
And then I put the rice in with it. It's meals to go.
That is brilliant.
And then
we don't eat a ton of lobster. I mean, he has lobster fisherman, but he doesn't give it away too freely. So I love it, just straight and cold.
Well, this time of year it's hard to get it because it's worth so much. But I do a lot of bartering, right? And
oh yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. I love that, the frozen concentrate thing. That is
Yeah, and it just makes it so it's fast food, but not gross. I always cut my onions up really tiny for this.
Now, would you put those in the food processor with the
No,
lobster? If you were doing
no,
that?
because I want to have a little bit of coarse.
Okay,
I don't want to lose the texture of that.
gotcha.
And the only reason why I do the lobster is if I'm doing if I'm having a big dinner party, it's just to save time. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's nicer to have the bits, the unevenness of it.
Yeah.
But I like to have the texture of the onions, although that's what a lot of people don't like about an onion.
Oh, I like it. So what else, since we're talking about lobsters, I know you're making the lobster cakes, but, so the chowder, and then tell me about your dip that you mentioned.
Okay. Well, there's a couple different ones. I make a hot dip that's got it's got cream cheese, like a layer of cream cheese, and then salsa, a layer of salsa, and then lobster, and then it's got vegetables on top, like whatever, like onions or peppers or whatever, and then sprinkling of cheese, and you bake that one in the oven. But the one that I make that's cold dip, that's like a scoopable dip that could be for chips or whatever, that one is half. It depends on what I have, but if I have sour cream or mayonnaise, whichever, and sour cream, and then I have onions in it. But when I have the onions in that, I would grate the onions to make them really small.
Right.
And not a lot of onion either, like maybe like a half a teaspoon of onion, because that's not something you want to have overpowering with onions. I don't find anyway.
Right.
And then I put just salt and pepper, sometimes lemon, sometimes a little bit of dill pickle juice, which sounds crazy, but I find that really good with seafood dips.
Yeah.
But like very small amount of it.
Yeah.
And I put hot sauce,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and that's how I usually make that.
Oh, now I've had that, like, whatever, Mexican dip, taco dip, 7-layer dip or whatever,
Yeah.
but all with hamburger. I've never had it with
Lobster?
lobster, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and you had mentioned your chowder, and you said you put in your spices and stuff at the end. What do you put into your chowder?
Summer savory is my favorite thing that I put in it. And then, but it depends because, like, I have lemon pepper sometimes, or usually I put a little sprinkling of parsley to make it look pretty.
Yeah.
And if I have green onion, which often I do, I like green onion in it as well.
Yum.
Melt the butter.
Yum. Okay, so the potatoes are boiling.
Mm-hmm.
You're frying your onions.
The butter is melting, and then the onions will be frying with that. See, this was a big guy.
Oh yeah.
I think I must have ate his other claw.
How did that happen?
That happened.
And how much butter do you?
For for that amount, I mean, it was probably 2 tablespoons, we'll say. And then just cut up the lobster, and it's all pieces. Like this one is one whole.
Whoops.
This is probably, I don't know if it was probably a 3-pound lobster, but the bigger they get, they kind of don't have as much meat in them, I find, like the shells or.
It smells so good.
Why did I do that? That's not potatoes. Good thing that's not live. That's a faux pas. That didn't happen. You didn't see
I'm
that.
just gonna edit it out. I didn't see a thing.
That didn't happen. Period. Never happened. What are you talking about?
It still smells really good though.
Yeah, it still smells.
This is a great pan too.
Oh, I've got a whole set of those dishes. My neighbor in Westport.
No way, because that's enamel cast iron.
Yeah,
And what a great color.
I've got.
It's like a U color.
Yes, look at this one.
It's like those are the most Alana. For an egg like that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And I've got
wow.
that size casserole.
No
And I've
way.
got, I know.
Oh, I'm really done.
And that little one. And they're both covers. I
In a
know.
very good way.
So drying the potatoes.
That is a great set.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
So you're putting the onions in with your mashed potatoes.
Yep. Everything just kind of plops in at this point. I'll put in the lobsters.
And you're just doing
All
salt?
it is. Salt. I'm just going to do salt, just salt, pepper, and thyme and coriander with this one.
Okay.
But different times, like depending on what I'm doing with it, like sometimes I'd have today I'm going to do mayonnaise, a hot mayonnaise, a sriracha mayo. But sometimes I do like a dill.
Oh, yeah.
But with this one here, now depending on, like I said, the herbs is all entirely what's your preference, right?
Yeah.
So, and I use my hands a lot when I cook.
Best tool.
Okay. And not too much of salt.
You're probably putting in a teaspoon.
Half a teaspoon maybe.
Okay.
And white pepper, just because my pepper mill's on the fritz right now and it's spitting out big chunks, which doesn't make it good, but you don't have to have white. Got yucky hands, but I'm going to put a pinch of the thyme. And depending on, like I said, another variation of this one, if I have panko crumbs, I roll them in panko crumbs.
Oh.
But these lobster cakes, you don't fry them. These are
Going in the oven.
they're going in the oven. And then they're just easier, like if you make them for breakfast or something, I find it easier. But I don't, and so for the mayonnaise, I guess you would just put in, because it depends on how wet your potatoes are, right?
Yeah.
Because if they're nice and dry, then you don't need as much. But just so it makes kind of a sticky paste that comes together.
And you're using Hellman's real.
Hellman's mayonnaise, nothing but.
I am with you. I completely agree.
Yeah, and like if you want to, you can roll them in. Okay, and then.
Yeah, so doing a big batch, it makes so much sense if you can just have them.
Yeah, and the thing is about these is if I'm having a dinner party or something, I can get them ready in the morning, and then if I put the panko and stuff on them too, and just have them sitting, and then when it clean up the mess, and then it's time to serve, then I always use an ice cream scoop for all my fish cakes because I like them to be the same size.
Yeah.
I use ice cream. I rarely use an ice cream scoop for ice cream. And then I put it on about 350 to heat.
Yeah.
And bake them.
And for how long? This is kind of a regular size ice cream scoop, so how long each?
Well, it's going to be a half hour probably for each side. And you don't mess with them in between.
Okay, so you're 350, half an hour,
Mm-hmm.
and then flip them, and then another half an hour probably.
Yep. And usually I serve these, when I have these, I usually serve them with a salad. And
What kind of salad is best?
Well,
What do you put in your salad?
well, I would do, obviously, I would never make a Caesar salad. It would be a garden salad of some sort. Like, I'm a big fan of spinach.
Yeah.
But I usually do a spinach salad or something, and if I'm doing it with hot, if it's going to have like a sriracha mayo with it for dipping, then I would go with more traditional kind of salad, like tomatoes and cucumbers and all that sort of stuff, and with a basic vinaigrette and maybe like a little bit of heat in it.
Yeah.
If I'm doing it with dill pickle and stuff like that, then sometimes that creamy salad dressing would be better. But just like a regular salad with,
Yeah. Yay! Now we get to eat them.
Now try it.
So what do you have a preference for do you prefer the sriracha mayo or the?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do, like I said, every time I make them a little different. So, with these ones, I think the sriracha would be better anyway.
All right. Oh, they are so good.
I know, I like them.
They're so, oh yeah.
But they're just simple. There's hardly any ingredients in them.
They're totally simple, but the potatoes really like creamy. Oh, that's
The
so
mayonnaise.
good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the outside is perfectly crispy. Like you would think they were fried.
Yeah, and like you can make a whole bunch and have them all hot at the same time.
Oh, yum. That's so good. Yeah. Okay, I'm totally gonna make these.
They're yummy. And it's a good structure for lobsters. Like if you have,
Yes.
if you've got company come in and you've got like 2 lobsters, but you can serve a whole bunch of people.
Yeah. Oh, the sriracha mayo is so good. It's perfect with them because it's just that tiny bit of heat, but it's...
Yeah. That's how I like it. I love to feed people.
Oh, I love to eat. Like, this is really... Sorry, I'm gushing. But I have never had lobster cakes, and it is...
Well, you probably haven't.
A revelation.
I made it up. I'm sure somebody's done it,
But I mean, it's brilliant because it's simple. It's just like fish cakes, except it's lobster.
Yeah, and the mayo instead of like eggs and stuff.
Yeah.
It just gives it...
It's like richer a little bit or creamier or something.
They kind of go, like, the potato just kind of feels good in your mouth.
Yeah, it's really good. And then every now and then you get that little chunk of lobster and it's... Oh, Alana. Yum. Thank you. Oh, I appreciate this so much. Thank you.
No, it's
like
fun.
a million
It's all
times over. Thanks so much to Alana for sharing her recipe and her time with me. Thanks to Julian Smith for composing and performing the theme music, and to Adam Graham for help with audio editing and for generally being awesome. And of course, thanks to you for listening. You can connect with me at the Nova Scotia Kitchens page on Facebook or email novascotiakitchens@gmail.com. We have had no end of trouble with our other email address that we shared in the first episode, so for now, these are the best ways to get in touch. And we're also on Instagram at Nova Scotia Kitchens. Until next time.